The tide is coming in, but there is no water here. That swell on the horizon is molten rock, and it is rising. Something new hangs in Earth's sky tonight, something big enough to lift the land. That something is the moon, and it is brand new. A collision between two young planets built it out of glowing wreckage. How close is it? Tonight, the moon hangs almost 400,000 kilometers away. You could line up 30 Earths side by side in the gap. The newborn moon hung about 20,000 kilometers up. That is the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole. Hold your fist out at arm's length. Tonight's moon hides behind one fingernail. This moon spilled past both edges of your fist. A full day and night lasted 5 hours, sunrise to sunrise, in less than a school day. But the moon was never just scenery. It pulled. Gravity fades with distance, so the moon tugged hardest on the side of Earth facing it, and weakest on the far side. Pull a world harder on one side than the other, and what happens? The world stretches. It bulges toward the moon, and away from it on the far side, both at once. Scientists call that stretch a tidal bulge. Today, the oceans do the stretching, and we call it the tide. But on this night, there is no sea, so the rock answers the pull. It still does. Tonight, the solid ground under your feet rises and falls about 30 centimeters as the moon passes. That is the length of a school ruler, far too slow and smooth to feel. Now bring the moon almost 20 times closer. The pull grows thousands of times stronger. Models suggest the molten surface swelled by hundreds of meters, a tide of glowing rock taller than the Eiffel Tower, rolling around the young Earth every few hours. Earth, meanwhile, was cooling. Within about 100 million years, rain fell, and stayed. The first oceans spread. On Earth's calendar, that is barely 1 week later, the moon was waiting for them. It still hung far closer than tonight, and it dragged the young seas back and forth in huge tides. Coastlines flooded, then drained, every few hours. Each retreat left warm pools shrinking in the sun. And a shrinking pool is a crowded pool. Some scientists think shores like these were the planet's first chemistry labs. Wet, dry, thousands of times over, rehearsing reactions that life would one day use. Other scientists bet on hot vents in the deep sea instead. That argument is still alive. But either way, the hands doing the kneading belong to the moon. All that work came with a bill. Earth spins faster than the moon travels around it, so the planet drags its tidal bulge slightly ahead of the moon, and the bulge has gravity too. It tugs the moon forward, like a hand pushing a swing at just the right moment. And push by push, the moon climbs, away from Earth. It has been leaving ever since. How could anyone know that? Astronauts left a mirror on the moon, fire a laser at it, and the light comes back in about 2.5 seconds. Every year, the round trip gets a little longer. The moon retreats almost 4 centimeters a year, about as fast as your fingernails grow. Corals remember too. A coral lays down one fine growth band every day, like a tree ring. Corals from 400 million years ago grew about 400 bands a year. The year had not changed. The days had under 22 hours each. So if the moon has been leaving since its very first day, what did Earth get to keep? Earth spins on a lean, tilted about 23 degrees, like a leaning, spinning top. That lean is why summer and winter exist, and it barely moves. It should. Jupiter and Saturn tug at every planet's spin. Mars has no big moon to guard it. Its tilt staggers by tens of degrees, enough to drag its ice from the poles toward the equator and back. Climate chaos, written into its rock. Earth's tilt drifts by about 1 degree. 1. Because the moon grips its partner's spin and holds the lean steady. How wild the wobble would get without it. Scientists still argue that it would be wilder, they agree. So before the first living thing existed, this moon had already steadied the seasons, kneaded the shores, and set the planet's clock. It saved the Earth before there was any life to save. The tide is coming in tonight, and this time, it is water and it is gentle. The ground beneath you still rises too, a ruler's length, far too softly to feel. The moon that once spilled past your fist now hides behind a fingernail. It is still leaving. It has never let go. On Earth's calendar, the day has turned to January the 5th. The giant keeps its grip from 400,000 kilometers away. Next time, the moon hides one of its faces from us forever. It does not match the other. Something may be buried there. Earth's first days are a long story, and that was one of them. The rest of the arc is on the playlist, Birth of a Planet,